Beyonce is teaching us a lesson with Cowboy.
Not getting it? Beyonce is giving us a history lesson. I haven't seen people quite put the dots together. You're looking in all the real places, so let me put you on. Say it with me. It's a cowboy era, not a cowboy album. Now, let me start with the punchline, which is that the cowboy, the modern American Western cowboy that we know today to be commonly found in movies, books, is what we think of like the prototype of a cowboy, does not exist. That's the takeaway. Now let me explain why. Let me connect the dots for you. Pharrell is now the creative director for the menswear of Louis Vuitton. For the fall 2024 campaign, he put an entire lookbook created of American Western looks. And I don't think anything is by accident. It's actually intentional, and I'm pretty sure it's a coordinated effort along with Beyonce's album release. Some looks of the American Western looks that they were going after, a lot of bolo ties, chaps, lots and lots of cowboy hats. Pay attention. Just to show you a very explicit parallel, here's an actual image of one of the male models from the menswear campaign. Look at the grills. Look at the hat. Now here's another image of Beyonce on her Instagram. Same thing, the grills and the hat. Are you noticing a theme here? Beyonce is actually a brand ambassador for Louis Vuitton. They went so far as to dress Beyonce for the 66th Grammy Award show this year, where Jay-Z actually announced, hey, she hasn't won an Album of the Year award. I don't know if he's shadowing for something, but she actually released this look far before even announcing her album. If you look closely, they're telling us it's an era. It's not an album. But it doesn't just stop there. That's just the beginning. I wanted to show you the partnership, to show you that it's a cultural movement. It's not just an album. I highly recommend anyone reading this article, The Evolution of the Cowboy Culture. The synopsis of this article is actually depicting that much of the idea of the modern American Western cowboy is actually built on the backs of other cultures. What we know today as the cowboy wouldn't exist because it's actually an evolution that's happened over time and has emigrated over time to America. Not only that, but more of the more modern cowboy idea that's depicted in like Civil War imagery and much of like the Reconstructive South is heavily tied to the Black and brown and indigenous folks that actually made up much of the cattle workforce. As said here, many who joined the cattle drives of the late 19th century were of African and Mexican and indigenous descent. In fact, cowboy culture can trace its roots to many different cultures from all over the world. If we go down to the last sentence, Grauer demonstrated how the evolution of the American cowboy is a coalescence of traditions, clothing styles, and technologies from around the world. Another article states that black cowboys in the American West accounted for 25% of workers in the ranch cattle industry between the 1860s and 1880s. If we go to the last sentence of this paragraph, it was also a fact that the word cowboy was a derogatory term to describe black cowhands. So yes, Beyonce, Pharrell, and this entire movement is reclaiming the idea of the cowboy, but it's actually deeper than that. And I'm going to go specifically into why her set list is made up the way that it is. Another article, Pharrell actually talks about the inspiration for this, where he said, you never really get to see what some of the original cowboys look like. They look like us. They look like me. They were black and they were Native American. Also otherwise known as the Yeehaw agenda. I really like that. Going back, so let's talk about the evolution of the cowboy. This map is actually a great depiction of how horses over time and the idea of the cowboy and handling cattle has actually transformed throughout time. Now, if you think about it, 1850 Texans did not invent cattle or farming. In hindsight, you're like, yeah, that's really simple to understand, but also like, why didn't we connect the dots? So this map has Africa, it has Spain, it has Scotland, Ireland, Mexico, Cuba, America. Hence why there's so many different genres in the album. It's the evolution of the cowboy. Don't believe me? There's actually another creator who called out that Rihanna actually did a photo shoot for Vogue China where she also displayed many of these American Western looks. Hence why the imagery has these braids. And more than anything, yes, the red, white, and blue is like being reclaimed, but I also thought there was so much like Native American and indigenous inspiration in this. The original article, like the evolution of the cowboy, actually goes on to say that a lot of these American Western looks are actually heavily coming from like Spanish looks, which actually makes sense because now I'm like, oh, I get why bull riders look like they're cowboys. Which when you think of bull riders and what they're wearing, I'm like, oh, this makes so much more sense. Again, this article says it so well, but as scholars have shown, the conflicts between cowboys and Indians are more myth than reality, and were often the product of imagination from dime store novels and popular westerns of film and television. So, boy bye, the cowboy doesn't exist. The cowboy is made up. You're cosplaying. Ultimately, what Beyonce is telling us is that encounter at the CMAs was her saying, you, my friend, wouldn't be here even without everybody else to make up the tradition of what is now known as the American Western look of a cowboy. We have cows and we have boys, but we don't have cowboys. Okay? If you like my content, go ahead and give me a follow. My page is still new, so show some love. Please and thank you.